now it's time to lay out the mortises and the positions for the ebony pegs on the legs. As you can see, what I started with was I went around the grain and looked and found out what faces I wanted to face out. And then I marked at the top, left front, left rear, right rear. But beyond that, and I put arrows pointing in towards the center. So if you get lost, what you want to do is reassemble this real quick with those arrows pointing in, and that should get you right back to your correct layout. Also, if you notice, I've written B, B, A, C, C. Those represent on the drawings the face of what you're going to do to that face. So refer to the drawings for that, and then you'll lay out that face accordingly. You can also notice that I've got two colors going here. I like to use two colors because it kind of helps identify things real quick. The arrows are in red, the lettering is in blue. And on the crosshairs for the ebony pegs is in red, and the positions for the mortises is in blue. And it's just easier to read that way. Lead is a little harder to find if you're going to use that. It comes from Germany, but the only place I can find it is on eBay, and it comes from South Korea. So if you're going to get some of this lead, order early because it usually takes several weeks to get here. So let me put this aside, and I will go ahead and go through the process of laying out one of those faces. I'm referring to the drawing here, and I'm going to lay out face A. And I'm on red, so I'm going down 2 1/4 inches to lay out for the ebony peg. A good way, I'm going to find center here because I got to do the center. And a good way to find the center is make a line, go to the other side, move it around here, make a line. You can see the difference here. Now I'm going to split that difference and go towards the center, and pretty soon I will have the exact center. I'll test it again. And there we are. So I'll go back and place my center line there. Now I know I'm exact center. Okay, now I've got the blue lead loaded into the pencil, and I'm going to go ahead and mark out the mortise. I'm going to place that dead center like I said, and that's roughly a little over 9/16 in from the edge. We'll place it generally in the center to replace it. And now I'm going to measure it's, let's see, 1 1/16 down from the top is right there. And the mortise is 11/16 long, so I'm going to add 1 1/16 plus 11/16, which gives me 1 3/4. A lot of times on a drawing, not all the dimensions are given, but they are there for you to find. You've just got to do some addition or subtraction to get there. And this is what we're doing here. And it looks like I didn't draw that one in all the way, the length, so I'm going to go back and get it. And there we are. Our next step is we're going to go over to the mortiser and we're going to start cutting out these mortises. Okay, here we are at the mortising machine, the hollow chisel mortiser. If you have an alternate method besides the hollow chisel mortiser, you want to chop them out by hand, that's great. Do that, or if you have a multi-router, this is just the method that we have here and it works for us today. I've set the depth to 1 3/16 deep, and I'm going to punch either end and then come back and punch the middle. Lining up with my lines that I've already put there. All the way down. I'm going to run down to the Other end, punch that. Then the middle. Then to clean all those lines up, to get the jagged lines out of there, I'm going to go back and punch several times. That kind of cleans it all up. Okay. Now I'm going to go down and get that second mortise, the little shorter one. Again, all the way to the bottom, 1 3/16 down, and over to the end. And again, I'm going to go back and forth a little bit to remove any jagged lines that may have occurred in the machining. Okay, go ahead and continue all the way through and do all the, this is the interior, this is the working tenon. What we're going to do next after you finish all these is we're going to get the other side and we're going to do the faux tenons. The faux tenons and the working tenons actually don't jive. If you look at them, there's not a faux tenon coming out the same size as the working tenon. But we've got good joinery nonetheless behind it. The faux tenons are placed more for aesthetic appeal. So next up is we're going to make a little template first for making those faux tenons exactly the same size. Okay, now we're going to make a template that works with the square punch. The square punch, I get royalties from this tool, so I have to, it's a disclaimer, but I believe it works really well. And what it does is it puts a square hole using your handheld drill. So what our template is going to do is we're going to place it over the leg, and we're going to put the punch at one end and then in the other end of that little notch. And if we've done everything right, we've made the template to the sizing that we have on the drawing, and we're precise about that, it should place it dead center. The length of the mortise isn't as important as placing it in center. The length, as long as we're consistent from one to the next, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to cut out the blanks for the faux mortises consistently so we don't have to size each one individually. To make the template, you're going to take a piece of 1/4 inch hardboard and put a notch in it. That notch I do it on the table saw, you can do it on a fret saw, you can do it any way that you can get that notch in there, go ahead and do it. You may want to test your template on a piece of scrap leg first, the same dimensions, to see if you are centering, but this piece gets attached to this registration block, a couple pin nails and some glue, and you're there. So let's go ahead and punch a hole in one of the legs here. So I'm lining up this edge. This is a registration block. It's going to line up with the edge of the leg, and then I'm going to line up the lines I have drawn with the notch. I'm going to clamp this in place. Keeping my registration good. Now, if you've bought these tools from Lee Valley, it's going to tell you to use a brad point bit with this. Don't do that. What's going to happen with the brad point bit is you notice the hole on this side is larger than the hole on this side. So when you put that brad point bit in there, those little tips are going to catch right in here, and it's going to mess up your bit. It'll destroy the bit. I use just a regular twist bit, and what I'm trying to do when I put this tool in there is I bury this down into the wood, that high point into the wood, and then you essentially don't need the brad point bit. You're good with the twist bit. So let me put this back together, and let's go ahead and punch out a hole. So I'm going to start by lining it up into the corner, just one corner. And also, I use a steel hammer. The instructions that come with the tool call for a mallet, a rubber mallet. the rubber mallet won't damage the top and mushroom the top. The steel hammer will, but the steel hammer gives you a much more punch, and that's what you really need. So I'm just going to start by burying those points in there. And I'm going to come back, once I've got the punch buried into the wood, then I'm going to drill. Before I do that, I should show you here, I've got a red line on a piece of tape. That tells me I'm going to try to go about a ½ inch into the wood there. And so that red line tells me when to stop. Okay, I've reached my stopping point, and I'm leaving the punch there. Now I'm going to tap it down. You want to move it back and forth just a hair, because if you don't move it back and forth, what's going to happen is you're going to have a very difficult time pulling it back out. And I'm going to go down until the flare out on the tool makes contact with that 1/4 inch template. But I'm going to go one more time with the drill bit. What that second time, what it's going to do is it's going to pull out all the crud that I just created by chopping those sides off. I'm just cleaning stuff out. Now I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to go over to the other side. And we're going to repeat the process. I'm going to take the template off. Now, the problem with the template is it restricts the downward motion of the punch. So we can only go down so far, and I want to take it down just a little bit further. So what I'm going to do, now that I've got the template off, I'm going to clamp it back again, and I'm going to go down just a little deeper with the punch. Let's put it back in. We've already established the perimeters now, so that's not an issue. So I'm going to go down just a little further and go back and do the clean out drill. I'm going to move it over and do the same again. And we're going to clean it out. Okay. There is still a little crud left in there. You can come back if it's not deep enough and take a small chisel and clean that out. Just a handheld chisel if need be. So next we're going to move on. Go ahead and do all those throughout the legs, and next we're going to move on and do just a single square hole, the little 1/4 inch guys for the ebony pegs. Okay, now we're going to punch some 1/4 inch holes for the ebony pegs. And I should mention, when you're using the 1/4 inch punch, the standard twist bit is too short. So you want to get, sometimes it's called aircraft bit or whatever, but they're longer length. And what I have done, you can see on the end here, I've taken that over to a grinder and put it on the edge and twirled it, and then I broke it off the length that I need. I want it to be able to set in the drill and hang out about 3/8 of an inch. That's what you want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the punch and we're going to center it over our crosshairs here and line it up that way. If it's off and dimensionally, just a hair, just a few thousandths or something, 32nd or less, that won't be noticeable as much as it being out of square. So it's very important to put the square up there, find center visually, but more importantly, make sure it's square to the world. And there I think we have it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to punch it, and we're going to do basically what we did before. I'm going to take the bit and drill all the way down till I bottom, because I've set that depth already. Now I'm going to punch all the way down, about 3/8 of an inch. The idea is to punch the hole further down than what the ebony peg is going to be, so you don't bottom that ebony peg out. And again, I'm going to wiggle that a little bit on the way down, because if I don't, it's going to be very hard to pull out. There I'm down about 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to go back now and I'm going to do the clean out. When you do the clean out, you don't need to go that full depth anymore because you've punched it down. If you go all the way through, you may break through the hole on the working tenon, or mortise rather, and you don't want to do that. So now we're done. We just got to pull this out. It takes a little wiggling. Let me unclamp it and I'll let you see what it looks like. A nice square hole. Very crisp. And that completes the machining on the legs. Go around and do that to all the 1/4 inch. All those crosshairs represent a 1/4 inch ebony peg.